when somebody does something to you, how do you recover from it? It was just a stepping off point, and then once it was stuck in my head, then I started to create a character. Well, what were the moments right before, like what could have happened to him leading up to that decision? And that it wasn't like just an impulsive leap in front of a train, but it was more deliberate. Like he laid down and that was the thing that struck me the most. So I was trying to get into his head, like where was he coming from, and what were his own like issues of sexuality, because from the little that I knew, I never read any articles, I never researched it on the internet or anything like that, but I knew that he was a well-loved teacher. So that meant to me, based on just that little information, that he would have had a really positive and great relationship with his students. But obviously the boundaries for him were blurred. I didn't get a sense, or wherever my impulse or instinct was that was relating to whatever I've projected onto this guy, I just didn't think he was predatory. And so that, to me, I was more interested in, like, well, what could have possibly gone through his mind? And I know a couple people who, because I've done some work at Workman Arts, I've heard some stories from people who've suffered from mental illness, and know one man in particular who attempted to commit suicide because he had paranoid schizophrenia. And I don't think that this is the same thing, but he has a very particular way in which he describes the moments leading up to that jump and the moment after jumping. And then obviously he survived to be able to tell the story. But that whole concept of like what's happening to this guy's mind as he's coming to that point of making that decision, and it being such a destructive and violent decision. And then that, really thinking about that, led me to the idea of like, well, who witnessed it? Because it's rare that you can be on a subway, and especially, I don't know if I knew this at the time, I don't think I did, that it was at Hyde Park Station. But most subway stations are generally they have people on them at any given time. It's rare that you'll be on a subway platform by yourself. So I thought there would be somebody that would witness it. And that started to be interesting to me, like this idea that something that is permanent, in terms of sexual harassment or abuse or molesting or something, that whatever that act was or acts or whatever, that's something that is permanent, that somebody else has to deal with for the rest of their lives. And then the way that he chose to kill himself is equally traumatic, and then is another like stamp of permanence that sticks on the brain of whoever hit him, and then potentially whoever was on the subway, depending on what they saw, and then the people who clean him up, and then whoever witnessed that. And so then that idea of being a witness to that led me to this idea of him talking to someone on the subway platform, and it made sense to me that it was another teenage boy. It starts from a place of trying to wrestle with trauma and how to overcome that. And so by taking things that are dark and scary and difficult for me and being able to put them into something creative has been exceptionally positive. To see other people own that work, like to see you own it and try and shape it and really passionately try to make this thing something, and to see that actors really like stepping up and be embodying these people is amazing. And with anything that we do, I think my favorite part is the community that that is created from it. And I think that's something that I value more than a lot of things, because I feel like that's part of my marriage too. It's like, it's not just that we're together trying to create a life like everybody does, but we're also trying to create art or something that gets put out in the world. And that's really difficult and expensive, but it's moving, and it's very satisfying and exciting and worth my time.
Run like a race for family when you hear like you're alone. Rusty gears of